you know. And in order to proceed in the yoga process, you really need honest, accurate information. You know, it's like it's this is like a roadmap with a very detailed instructions. If you have that roadmap and the detailed instructions, you know, you'll get to the destination. It's just a question of when, but will you get there? Definitely. But you know, there's lots of people selling roadmaps. You know, nonsense, fictitious, fantasy. You know, that's why I press people a lot to study scriptures and to read the lives of saints, because in that way, in your search for knowledge, uh, your search for a correct process, you can sort of figure out for yourself um, honest teachers and people who are just in business, basically, you know. But the scriptures are important for that. And the lives of saints are important for that. Reading the lives of saints, you break your fantasies about what this life is about. A lot of times they think, oh, the yogi is supposed to be sitting up on a throne somewhere and be levitating and all this. It's nonsense. Nonsense. It's never been like that. You know, in India, the average yogi was the guy, you know, the second hut to the left, you know, by the oak tree. You know, so that's how it's always been. They've just been like a village priest or village yogi, or you know, a spiritual scholar. In this country, we try to brand things and then we try to blow it up. And it's not for spiritual reasons, it's for economic reasons. You know? So the yogis have always been extremely accessible. You know, they've always been part of the community. You know, do some yogis go away to you know, extreme places for meditative silence and seclusion? Of course. But that and far more was situated right in the village, you know, right in your community. They were always accessible. So, reading the lives of the saints, you realize that there's ups and downs. There's moments of joy, moments of sorrow, uh, moments of prosperity, moments of poverty. They live like everybody else. They go through the ups and downs that everybody else goes through. They're not immune from the world. But what's unique about them, or special about them, is that no matter what karmas are manifesting, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, they have a persistent remembrance of God. They have a persistent devotion to God, and they have a persistent communion or mysticism with the nature of God. See? So that's what makes them a little bit different than the regular person. The regular person, good things, bad things happen, and they basically go into various gradations of madness. You know, the yogi's going to suffer, but the yogi suffers and remembers God. The regular human being suffers and forgets God. You know, that's a big difference. You know, you have to maintain that thread of communion, come what may. That's what the yogis are. So they're not different. They experience everything. If you cut them, they bleed like anybody else. But it's their focus that's different. It's their focus that makes them unique, and that they've acquired a series of habits to maintain that focus. So it's like, basically, the yogi has a divine gyroscope, and the regular people don't. So they're thrown off balance much, much easier. You know, the same calamities happen to both, but one has a gyroscope and one doesn't. You know, one has an accurate map and the other doesn't. See? So if you have no gyroscope and no accurate map, aren't you far, far, far more insecure? Of course you are. You're like way insecure. So, you know, the more advanced yogi doesn't have the fear of death, which is everybody's existential fear. You know, that's what the regular person does. They don't know if they're falling off a cliff into an abyss. You know, they don't know if there's really a heaven. You know, they're like, they don't even know if there's really a God. They're just like way hopeful, you know, because the alternative seems rather bleak. See? The yogi doesn't have those burdens because of their internal practices. You know, is there a God? Is there heaven? Are there angels? Are there saints? All of those questions are answered for them, you know, in a very direct, indisputable way. You know, for the average person, it's like hopeful mythology. Like, I really hope there's a God. I really hope there's an angel to help me out. You know, I really hope this guy who's called a saint is really what they call a saint. They don't know. They don't know at all. They're just hopeful. See? And the whole science of yoga is to give you a series of processes of direct knowing. See? A series of processes of giving you direct knowing. That's a big difference than theory or assumption or guessing or saying a hopeful prayer. The yogis want you to know for sure directly. So your knowing becomes an anchor in your life. It's where most people are sort of somewhat rudderless. So they're sort of just going with the tide and hoping for the best. That's not a yogi at all. A yogi is a very directed individual. Whether people can see it or not, internally there's an active fire that does not go out, and they have a compass setting that they're absolutely relentlessly holding on to, regardless of what you see. And the average human's insecurities are because they have no anchoring. So they're just sort of wafting around based on the winds of karma. You know? They're just hoping not to get crashed across the rocks and sink. That's not the yogi's situation. You know, can we get thrown against rocks and broken up? Of course. But there's that constant remembrance of sanctity. So we live in the presence of God. We die in the presence of God. It's totally, totally, totally different circumstance. You know, so if calamity comes, it's like, okay, new body. You know, it's not that big a deal. As for the average person, losing their body is a very, very, very big deal, because they don't know anything else. They think that this is it. See, and the key of this yoga science is to learn that this is just part of a process, that embodiment and re-embodiment is a normal thing. That's where we think that body, that's it, that's all I got. So of course you cling to it as if it's like, if you had 100 coats, would any one coat be a big deal? No. It's not a big deal. But if you have one coat, and you think you have to go through every season with that one coat, you're going to really be, worried about holding on to it. See? So your mental attitude, towards your embodiment changes, and the nature of your purpose changes. Why did I start talking about this?
Because you missed Jen.
That
Gin.
was the beginning, but
Yeah.
Gin.
that kind of ranged far.
Gin was the root.
Yeah.
Yoga.
Yeah, and getting back to that point of Gin,
My friend I brought.
Yeah,
couple
she's a good
times ago,
girl.
and she came to your. She told me she came on last.
to the meditation also.
Yeah, in the park.
Yeah,
She came.
yeah. The
In
Bay
the-
meditation she came to.
In the rain.
In the range.
She
Yeah,
meditated
in
in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the root of that is
Wasn't
not to miss opportunities, because you don't know when it's going to come again, to get accurate information. So I see a few new faces, many old faces. So thank you for coming out on a Sunday. I'm happy you're still in town. Hello, congratulations. So you'll be taking yoga back to Europe. So I'm happy about that. So what we'll do is we'll chant Om 3 times, just so that you get some intelligent understanding. I'm not really interested in people doing things just because they're told to do things. That doesn't mix with me well at all. You should do things based on intelligence, based on inquiry, based on research, based on reflection, not just because somebody in a robe told you. See? So to give you a little bit of understanding of Om, Om is the primordial sound of creation. You can say Om is Divine Mother. It's creation, that which makes all things be. So we're all part of the body of Om. Matter of fact, everything you see, everything you experience, is part of the body of Om. Om is just the root of it. It's the root. And so you have this infinite diversity that we see. But that infinite diversity manifests out of one element of God. See? So from the one came the many. So when you're chanting Om, you're reaffirming and evoking and remembering the sanctity of existence. Not just the sanctity of life, the sanctity of existence, of manifest existence. You're reaffirming the sanctity of manifest existence. See? And by attuning yourself to that, you're becoming consciously aware of your place within it, that you're a cell within this infinite body of sanctity. So you're not just some other floating around in the unknown, that you actually have a place, that you're a purposeful, conscious manifestation of a blessed intelligence. See? You're part of that intelligent, blessed body, not just an existential other floating around in the universe. So that's what you're doing when you chant Om. And when you're chanting Om, you shouldn't just chant from your throat. You should think of your whole body as a bell. And that, just like when you ring a bell, the entire bell vibrates. See? When you're chanting Om, you think of your entire body chanting. Your entire body manifesting that sound. That way you get more value. this is not just a theory. This sound of Om actually really exists. If you were to significantly practice the science of Nada Yoga, which means the ability to be able to hear the inner sounds that manifest from the chakras, which is not that tough to do. Just concentration and patience. That's all it takes. You'll go through all the various manifestations of sound until you reach that sound of divine inception, and then you have your mind blown. The experience you're experiencing creation. You're experiencing the intelligence and the power of creation. Definitely doable. The only reason why people in the room haven't done it is because you've been distracted. That's all. You've been distracted. You've got 10,000 other things you've been fiddling around with. But if you sit like a yogi and are very persistent and learn the correct technique, to be able to hear the sounds, it comes quite naturally. Not technically not difficult at all. But it takes significant persistence and significant concentration. That's all. All that means is work. That just means work. And then these mystical events can be experienced by each individual, so that you know for yourself. See? When you know for yourself is entirely up to you. It just means when you're willing to do the work. When you're willing to put aside the 10,000 for the one. See? It's your choice. That's what you don't realize. It's your choice. Just like most of the people in this room are all university graduates. It was your choice to work hard. You see? It was your choice to get the degree. Did you have to put aside a whole bunch of things for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years? You absolutely did. No difference in yoga. You put aside a lot of things to see if God is for real. If Om is for real. See, if all of that sanctity is for real. You put things aside to see for yourself. So when that curiosity is strong enough, and when the desire for the fruits of that insight is strong enough, then you'll do the work. Everything else is all preparatory. This Hari is just trying to prime the pump so that you can get the motor running, get to work. Okay, so with all these practices, you have your spine erect, and then you relax. You with the spine erect, then you will allow the musculature just to drape over an erect spine. That's correct position. And then you can put your hands in any way that's comfortable, that's stable. See, that's stable. See? And then you'll take a deep breath in. And with the outgoing breath, you'll chant Om, and we'll do this 3 times. Just sit for 3 moments, 3 minutes, and just simply observe the breath. And here you're practicing simplicity. take a deep breath in and release the breath, and then gently open the eyes. So, you've primed the pump. The reason you do this kind of introductory activity is so that the nervous system is calmed down, and the mind becomes alert and receptive. Okay? Otherwise, you run in from the day, your mind is scattered, you hear only a third of what's said. You know, we want you to get as much as possible. We want you to leave with your basket full. So today, the topic is precious within, precious without. So with all of these types of yogic topics, they're designed to break your normal pattern of thinking, and to get you into a situation where you ask questions of yourself that you don't normally ask. See? The questions and the presumptions we ask and we assume are generally those of the world. It means the chatter that all of our associates and our friends and our community is doing. It's just unenlightened chatter. It's not chatter based on any kind of reality. It's chatter based on assumption. See? Think about the last conversations you've had with people. If you analyze the conversation, do they really, really, really know what they're saying? Or are they making a whole series of assumptions? Maybe they're functional assumptions, but they're still assumptions. Is it based on an absolute knowing that this is so? A lot of times the yogis try to not talk that much unless they're trying to convey something that they know is so. Other than that, they curb the chatter. So that's why sometimes the yogis are called aloof, because they don't want to churn up any more unnecessary chatter that sort of leads you away. They rather you quietly sink into some silence and then have sort of intuitive epiphanies, intuitive insights. See? So consequently, unless they have something very directed to say, you know, a friend of mine once joked and had me laughing really quite a bit. A friend of mine said to me, you know, Haricharan, you're really a great guy, but you're terrible at parties. I was roaring. I thought that was hilarious. You know, you just sit there and look at people, which makes people very nervous. Well, I thought that was really funny. But and then I thought, yeah, she's right. She's right. So, but anyway, we want you to have a deeper understanding and a deeper relationship with life in general, and a relationship based on something more substantial than sort of notions flying around, unsubstantiated notions. So when you get this idea of precious, you know, when we say precious within, well then, if we have a show of hands, how many people have thought about, okay, what's precious within? You know, have you thought about that in reference to yourself? What's precious with you, within your own self? You know? Maybe we missed that. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's a future yogi down there. So, even with these words, we have to define what is precious. Usually, and you can also chime in and give your definitions, usually something that is precious is something of value, has a value, that you personally value. It's precious to you. You know, it's not only of value, but it has a personal value to you. So, if you don't find something precious within you, and your basic thoughts or unsubstantiated notions, aren't you sort of like drifting in a vast sea of maybe without a series of really, really root values? If something is truly precious, you're going to fight to maintain it. You're going to fight to hold on to it. But if you didn't find something truly, truly precious, where are you standing? You know, what are you holding on to? What are you willing to defend? See? So we have to make these inquiries. You know, who are you really? You see? Is there any constant you? Is there any constant thing to hold on to? So we have to make this inquiry to say, what's really, really, really precious? And the first thing we're going to say is, I don't know, which is a very legitimate, honest statement. I really appreciate that. I don't know. That because you start out honest, you know, that's really good. It's a good place to stand. And then you look deeply and say, what is truly, truly, truly precious? See? We all have to make that inquiry because that gives us a place to stand. Other than that, we're like shifting psychologically all over the place. You know, but if we say what's truly precious, from that moment on, you have a course in life. And you can give an analogy. So the girl goes from childhood to teenagehood to adulthood and then becomes a mother. The moment that woman becomes a mother, she understands something about precious. And from that moment of understanding something about precious, doesn't that shape the course of her life? Doesn't that give her a type of a definition that affects everything else from the rest of her life? See? It's a defining thing. So you know, and then you have to go further than that, and you have to say, okay, I feel this is precious. Then you always say why. Always ask, why is it precious? Not that using this analogy of your own child, not that, it's the child is precious because it's my child. You have to go deeper than that. You know, what does that child represent? Doesn't it represent innocence? You know, doesn't it represent a type of purity? Doesn't it represent a type of infinite, potentiality? See? So all of these things become part of your definition of precious. See? It's not just because it's personally, genetically related to you, but it's what that represented. See? It's an embodiment of certain principles. So you have to say, okay, these principles are precious to me. See? It gives you a way forward. It gives you a place to stand. It gives you some psychic definition. See? You know, if you look at the people's minds, there's so much quasi noise going on. They have no idea who they are, what they're all about. You know, they just don't know. Very spooky place to stand. No self-definition. or some really unfortunate, sick definition of themselves. Someone told them this about them, someone told them that about them. Parents said this, friends said that, and they're assuming that's a reality. Which is just nonsense. It's just, unfortunate verbiage. What's important was for you as an individual to say what is precious. What is precious, and to think about it. Write it out, figure it out. Because the moment you figure out what's precious within, you have a place to stand, you have principles to fulfill, and you have a way to live. Without that, all your self-definitions were just hearsay by people who maybe not necessarily, mentally healthy or truly invested in you. They're seeing through their clouded lenses and projecting, how you define yourself. Now, isn't that profoundly unfortunate? You're wearing someone else's name, somebody else's cloth, somebody else's misunderstanding of you. No, please. Find what's precious in you, because that's going to be something defining, something to create a way forward. So we all have to make those types of analyses so that we can have a way forward, so that we can have a secure place to stand. Then as you sort of discover what is precious, what is truly, truly, truly precious, and be really tough on yourself. Don't be, give yourself a quick answer and say, okay, I'm good to go. No. This is like a rendering process where you put it in the cauldron and you boil it down. You get it down to its essence. See? It'll be the most substantial that way. Don't be casual with yourself. Be rigorous. Be rigorous. And then only after you can understand what's precious in you, these root perceptions, can you really take a look outside and say what's precious outside. You might say, I like this is good, but when it's precious, you're also willing to fight for it. You know, how many women will not defend their baby? You see a woman become like a tiger. See? So that type of energy, that type of conviction, that type of strength rises up when you can discover what's precious within and also what's precious outside. And then the context of the world starts to change when you can say what is fundamentally precious. When I look out into the world, what is fundamentally precious? Doesn't that change how you move through the world? You know, how you define the world? How you reference the world, one thing against another? I mean, we're pulled out into 10,000 different things, of which most are meaningless. Most of it's nonsense. It's just stuff. But if we can say what is truly precious without, can't we easily and rapidly dismiss the 10,000 things that are just nonsense? We can just simply dismiss it as unimportant. You're walking down the street and a dog is barking. Do you get fixated on a dog? You just say, oh, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. You just dismiss it. It's a barking dog. You don't get wrapped up in it. But now think of how many 10,000 things we get wrapped up in that at the end of the day has absolutely no meaning. Can you imagine how much of your psychic and emotional force you use that you attach to things that actually had absolutely no meaning, that's a tremendous amount of wasted energy that you could have been focusing on something that was precious. See? Well, we get caught up in this, we get caught up in this, and we get caught up in this. When if you had a deeper focus on what was truly precious, all this other stuff, it's like, this is none of my business. So you just keep going. This is not part of my life charter. You know? We're caught up in the meaningless. So this idea of seeking out the precious is very, very important. It first has to start what's precious within me. And then the next step is what's precious in the world. See? Then you have a course to run. You're developing a destiny. You know, you're not just tumbling through life, which is the average human being. Tumbling through life. You know? And all of a sudden, your life becomes far more focused. The 10,000 distractions, you know, it's noise. It's a barking dog. It doesn't mean anything. Just keep going, keep pursuing the precious, you know, cultivating the precious, manifesting the precious, you know, sharing the precious. See? Now we have meaning, you know, as opposed to the 10,000 things that, who cares? Doesn't mean anything. See? You know, things, you know, we have these people called drama queens. You know? So much of their emotional disposition is based on nothing. You know, stirring up a muddy pot. You know? Does it mean anything? No. Have you exhausted a tremendous amount of energy? Yes. Are you wasting your life? Well, absolutely. Are you disturbing the lives of others? Definitely. You know? Are you a contribution? No. Is that how you want to define yourself? You know, it's because you never searched for anything precious that, you know, you've taken all of this humanity and reduced it down to like a nuisance mosquito. Your life becomes like a mosquito, just a nuisance, you know, buzzing around.
You should be a Dharma queen, not a drama.
Yeah. So yeah. Yes. So we just have to find ways of looking at our life and making our life purposeful as opposed to random. See? A purposeful life as opposed to a random life. You know, and finding things that have true meaning, holding on to them, cultivating them, protecting them, and willing to fight for them. You know, the thing is, if you don't make these types of inquiries and acquire an insightful self-definition, then what occurs, unfortunately, is an uninformed, random self-definition. See? You're defined by others. You're defined by circumstances. And then you accept it as part of your identity. Which is why is the hospitals and the psychiatric offices filled? It's filled with people who were assigned identities that have nothing to do with them, and they've accepted them. This is who I am. You know, this is what beauty means. You know, we have to have the perfect bottom, the perfect nose. Well, who said what was perfect? See, you bought into that nonsense. You allowed somebody else to define you. Profoundly unfortunate. As opposed to having that constant rumination of what's precious, and living that out. You know, yes.
I have a question. I think it's related to that. So late in the past couple of weeks, I've been really focusing, like throughout my day, on just noticing what comes into my psyche as what's positive, and so I was trying to very much focus on what I'm actually thinking, and it was pretty revealing. and that I do try to be positive. But I noticed that as I did that, like I'm wondering, is it normal? Like I recognized a lot of these thoughts that would come that were really not something I would necessarily want to invite would kind of show up a lot. Is that like a natural clearing, or is that, or like I wasn't sure if I should. Do you pay attention to them, or do you bury them, or is that normal?
It's actually normal. You have to understand your situation. Every regular people think of themselves as I am this embodiment. But from a yogic perspective, yes, you are this embodiment, but you also have a huge backlog of psychic information, psychic actions from past births that are also part of your subconscious, which bubble up to your conscious mind. Some of it's pleasant, some of it's unpleasant, some of it's useful, some of it's rubbish, unpleasant rubbish. We just have to understand that that's part of the backlog of psychic material that we're sort of carrying along with us. So it's good to be aware, but in that you have to define yourself. This is like psychic weather. You don't always have control over the weather, but you have control over how you respond to the weather. See? So in the yogic life, we always are chanting God's name. That's sort of a cycle that's always going on in our hearts, always going on in our minds. And in chanting God's name, there's a type of association and a type of a purification that's always happening. So just because something arises in your mind, there's no need to say, this is who I am. It doesn't have to be self-defining. This is just sort of part of the psychic weather. And what you can do is just inject God's presence into that weather. See? So it's sort of like, let's say it's stormy outside, and I have to go from A to B, point A to point B. I can get all wrapped up in the weather and be, this is, a drama, this is difficult. Or I could choose to recite poetry to myself as I pass from A to B. See? So we choose to say God's name regardless of the psychic weather. So if something pleasant comes up, we're saying God's name. If something unpleasant comes up, we're saying God's name. So we acquire a psychic platform of the beauty and the glory of God's name. See? Regardless of sort of the karmic weather that's arising and falling. See? So we're aware. We're not dumb to the weather. We're aware of the arising and falling of things. But we also are maintaining a particular stance, a particular remembrance, a particular quality of life. And there's infinite names of God. There's so many names of God, of which all are manifesting some glory of God. So you find those mantras or those names of God that inspire you. And then that becomes your psychic platform. See? So we don't suppress anything. See? If anything, we maintain a stable stance in the remembrance of God's name. See? And don't grab onto it. This is something from the past, or some unenlightened impulse. It's part of nature. It's okay. But it's like you can have a fouled lake, but can that lake be purified? Absolutely. Absolutely. See? Do the sacred practices, and one of those practices is mantra. So it's purifying, it's purifying, it's purifying. So that's in our heart and mind, that's where we stand. With that persistent remembrance of God's name. So whatever comes up, we're aware of it, but we stand with God's name. See? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because we all have junk.
I noticed that it's weird because the higher, because it's been amazing, my days have become amazing. like some almost like miraculous, but it seems like then when those other things come in, even more intense. And I just didn't know if I should, but that's great
Yeah.
advice, thank you. Yeah,
You know, the more you start to live this life, this yogic life, you know, you're going to be challenged.
right, okay,
You know, heaven wants to see, are you serious?
right,
Are you for real? You know? So various opportunities will come up, but various challenges will come up first to see if you're for real, if you're ready for the next opportunity. See? So this is nature. You can think of this as dejunking.
okay. Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. It was like, this is almost like a clearing. But,
Yeah, it is. It's just stuff. And,
Okay.
you know, yogis are relentless. You just keep moving ahead. You know, and our primary tools are prayer, mantra, meditation. Those are the primary tools that we're using. Of course, a life of good works. That goes without saying. And you apply these three sciences, and then whatever karma comes, that's what comes. But we deal with it using these tools of prayer, mantra, meditation, good works. See? And then whatever comes, comes. But we have a method of dealing with it. See? Now there's two important principles. Okay, Ramakrishna. We'll see. Thank you for everything, Sylvia. There's two really important words and understandings that you have to acquire. Now, this is going to be a little bit sophisticated. It might sound simple, but you know, there's a lot to think about in this. You have to understand, so we have this concept of precious within, precious without, which gives you a mooring, and your life becomes a purposeful verb, a purposeful action. That's one side of the coin. The other side, we have to understand the position that we're in, that there's multiple forces in life. So now we've created a force of precious. But the idea and the notion and the understanding of the word glamour is really, really, really important. You know, what is glamour? There's whole big volumes written on this, of what the notion of glamour is. And it's not just, you know, when we think of glamour, we think of, you know, the models walking up and down runways and such. It has some relationship to it. But in esoteric understanding of glamour, glamour is something that is attractive, appealing, and is basically an illusion. It's attractive, it's appealing, but it's basically an illusion. And if it's basically an illusion, it's not truly substantial. So if you're chasing something that's attractive, illusionary, and is not substantial, aren't you wasting your time? Aren't you chasing a mirage? You've got 100 years of life. And how much of your life have you been chasing after some form of glamour? Think about it. You know, if you want the heights of human evolution, and 78% of your life is chasing after illusions, how much of your life did you leave to really chase after God? You just run the numbers. So how much glamour are you chasing? This is a hugely sophisticated understanding that has to be acquired. That if you, and this may be a little bit painful, you know, we all like what we like, but the yogi is just to say, see it as it is, you know, call it out for what it is. That's the tough part of yoga. That's why people don't go so high in it, because we have our comfortable delusions. We have very comfortable illusions that we support. Yoga is not like that at all. Yoga is the fire of truth, the fire of insight, the knowing of God. You know, God is absolute truth. That's what it is. You know, as human beings, we say God, not so much. You know, God as long as you're comfortable. You know, not God as the fire of truth. As we're yogis, believe in God as the fire of truth. Whatever truth is, that's what I want. You know, come what may. See, it's a very high bar. So we have to, just in our normal lives, say, what level of glamour am I participating in? It may be a little bit depressing. You know, it may be a little bit of a downer, but it's better to, my understanding is it's better to know than not to know. And then at least if whatever you're going to do, you're going to do. But at least you should know where you stand, and you should know what your investment is. You know, so people say, oh, I want yoga, I want God, I want all this kind of stuff. And then you say, well, how much glamour are you pursuing in your life? And then you're talking as if you're pursuing God 100%. You know, I'm a reverend, I'm this, I'm that, you know. I'm a great devotee. You know, yoga is a science of get real. Get real. You know, be ruthlessly honest with yourself. And say, you know, how much enticements am I being drawn out towards or running after? And are they really, really, really what I thought they were? You know, so the boys get the fancy red car. When we turn 50 years old, we're getting the fancy red car. You know? You know, the girls, as they start to droop, get the boob job. You know? You know? Or the nose fixed up, whatever the nonsense they're doing. This is glamour. And think of, you know, the 50-year-old boy getting the fancy red, you know, Jaguar, or whatever, the fancy car he wants. He's chasing a dream. He's chasing an illusion. You know, he's chasing something. Is that really going to make him happy? Is there any true substance in that fancy red car? Not at all. You know, did he make a big investment in it? You know, psychic and monetarily? Absolutely. You know, so you think about his psychic investment, his monetary investment. All of those are forms of energy that he put into chasing something insubstantial, as opposed to saying what's precious and taking that same investment and putting into what was precious. See, so you have to understand what you're up against. You're up against this massive energy of glamour, and you're sort of wrapped up in it, and you don't know. And until you can call it out and say, what is glamour and what is my investment in it, can you sort of make an assessment of how energetically, what the proportions of your energy are chasing after glamour, and what proportion of your energy is chasing after God, truth, love, insight, reality. See? These are the calculations that we as yogis are constantly making, and all of us as aspirants have to consider. See? Without the consideration of glamour, you're already caught. You're already in it, and you don't know. You're already assigned a tremendous amount of your human energy to something that is insubstantial. That's not going to get you to your evolutionary goal. All of yoga is about reaching your evolutionary goal. And glamour is the energy that moves you off mark. See? It moves you off mark. You'll never hit the target. You know? Hence, how many births do we have? It's a very long walk. So, the yogis and the saints and the masters are here to try to keep us on point. To say, do these things, you know, follow these disciplines so that you can stay on mark and not be drawn off mark. You know, that you're born with an evolutionary arc that you're supposed to travel. You know, you're not supposed to maintain being a seed all your life. You're supposed to grow into this grand oak. One moment. You know, you have an evolutionary destiny to fulfill. That's part of you. You know, but if you're off mark all the time, it's like taking a very fertile seed and putting it in very stony ground. Well, how well is that seed going to do? It's in an inappropriate environment. If you take that fertile seed and put it in fertile ground, then you get a full expression. If you put it in the stony ground, it'll be stunted. Not enough soil, nutrients, not enough water. See? So that becomes a wasted life because wrong environment. The incorrect environment is being absorbed in glamour. It's the wrong environment for the seed to sprout. You're chasing after your illusions, your delusions. See? So again, you get back to what's precious. See? What's precious in me, within me. And then what's precious without. You can stay on mark. Because this power of glamour is huge. See? We have to say what glamour is drawing us. See? And then how much am I supporting glamour as opposed to how much am I supporting what's precious? See? It keeps you on mark. It keeps you on a meaningful life. So when you take your last breath, it meant something. It meant something. As opposed to, oh, you know, a lot of people die with a depression like, oh, what did it mean? You know, oh. I see a lot of death being a priest. You know, people call me all the time when that kind of crisis comes up. Most people don't die happy. You know, they don't die satisfied. You know, they die with a lot of fear, a lot of confusion. That's most of what I see with the death process. You know, rare do you see someone dies with a yes. You know, I did well. I stayed on mark. Die with a yes, as opposed to an oh no. See? We want you to die well.
Yeah, what do you think about glamour in different times of your life? I think
Say the word again.
about glamour in different times of your life.
Yeah.
I read about this concept, I think it's also from Hindu religion, that in the first 25 years of your life you're supposed to travel and to educate yourself, and then there are 25 years
No,
where
first
you,
is student life.
the student life, and then you're more like the life of having a family and working,
Correct.
and making like a living, and then
Correct.
the last 25 years you get really wise. So I feel I'm now at the point of transitioning to not being a student anymore to starting a work life, and
Yes.
it's very hard because I feel I have to expose myself to a lot of glamour. If I go into a profession, like I'm a lawyer, there will be like many people around who will only like look for being competitive, of earning a lot of money, of having status. And if I go there, it's very hard. I mean, I can always know that that's not the important thing, but I'll be much more exposed to it than now when I'm a student and I can just say, oh, I don't care, I just don't do all these things. So I feel like if I would really be true and say I don't want to do this, I should just stop all of this and just say, okay, I'm not going to work, I'm going to, I don't know, do something else, go into a little school and being a teacher, or retreating from the career I've built up, where I could maybe do a lot of good things at some point, but not in the beginning, because I have to fight my way into it. I have to just first settle down and be stable. I'm poor, I don't have money, so I cannot now say, okay, I don't care, take care of what's around. So can I accept more glamour at some point of my life and say, okay, I'll do this for some year and then I'm more stable, and then I'm aware of this, and I don't know, I catch up later, or I know that there's another time where I have more time for this and more stability, that I can say, okay, now I retreat. I know I'm not. I know that I'm not going for the red card, but I know that I have maybe to kind of move forward first.
Your question is a very good question, Martin. It's not a question of retreating from glamour. It's a question more of recognizing what it is and not participating. So can you become a lawyer? Can you be successful? Can you do your job? Can you take care of your family? And can you become wealthy? All of those things, no problem. The thing is to see things for what they are and to choose your level of participation. It's a question of your awareness. And this is where Gandhi put a beautiful term we talk about all the time called satyagraha. It means non-support. So you can see when something is nonsense. You can simply choose not to support it. See? Is it there? Is it active? Are your friends involved in it? Yeah. But you can choose not to participate, to not support something that is not in your interest, or in the interest of supporting what is truly precious within and truly precious without. Will you lose some friends over this? Yes. Is that the price of admission for the kingdom? Yes. You know, the price of admission is exercising wisdom. See? Now, some people want to roll in the gutter, and that becomes their lifestyle and their form, whether it's gutter mind, gutter actions. You know, you can choose not to participate. Every hog wants the sty to be full. You know, they want lots of hogs around them. But you can say, I'm not going to roll in the mud. Yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do. That's it. See, so this life takes a type of strength where you're not living as if you're in a popularity contest. You're living to fulfill a purpose. To fulfill a purpose. So some people will be drawn to you. People and circumstances will be drawn to you because of that. Some people and circumstances will be repulsed. That's life. But it becomes the life you choose, as opposed to living a compromised life. You know, always compromising and doing what you sort of think is politically smart. You know, if you look at Gandhi, he had a series of concepts that were precious to him. And he took them forward in his life, and he was a lawyer. He took those concepts forward in life, come what may. Some people loved him, some people hated him. That's life. See? So, you know, you as a lawyer, you can look around the world at the various judges and lawyers that you feel have meaning. And they should become part of your model of integrity and action. And then hold to it. You know, and those who don't want to participate, God bless them, good luck, see you later. See? So, but you have to, if you don't see glamour for what it is, you're going to be wrapped up in it. It's like a very beautiful leech. You know, we don't realize it's a leech that is sucking our life force away and taking us from more purposeful action, more purposeful life. And it's beautiful. You know, it's like the mariner's sirens. They have this beautiful song that brings them into the shoals, and their boats get wrecked. See, there's that Jason and the Nugget. What is that mythology?
Homer.
Yeah, Homer.
Homer's Odyssey.
Yeah, so they're brought into these, crashing their boats on the rocks by hearing the siren, the beauty of the song. So this is the situation. You know, it may be beautiful, but it may be leading you to something disastrous. That's glamour. That's glamour. Yes.
So that kind of leads me into what I was hoping to talk a little bit about. So, are you saying that like wealth and spirituality have to be mutually exclusive?
No, not at all. I'm not saying that at all.
No, that's fine, because I think as an American, that's like one of the hardest things to
My desire is that you become very wealthy. Why? So that you can put it towards noble purpose. See? If you take your wealth and put it towards glamour, it's squandering. You know, it's basically abhorrent.
Right.
But if you become wealthy, and that noble wealth, that becomes noble wealth, aren't the poor fed?
Right.
See?
Actually, it's funny because it just all of a sudden a story popped in my head. I guess Buddha had a very wealthy benefactor, and he was super wealthy, but he fed the poor, and he
Sure.
built him like a ashram, and
Yeah.
and so you can do great things with it. It's
Yeah.
just, and
The
you
purpose
can
of wealth is to create positive opportunity in life for others.
Okay.
You know, not to live in a castle, you know, while the people exist in a
Starve, right.
wretched condition.
But I like what you said, because I think a lot of times what happens is it's this beautiful leech, and when you're so caught up in your day
Right.
to day in the office, and everybody's in that world, it's hard
Yeah.
to always know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. But until these concepts are put on the table, we don't really think about it, and we don't really consider the consequences, you know, of how much of our life is wrapped up in glamour, and how much energy is taken from other things that would be more purposeful, more truly enriching. See? I mean, we've got roughly 100 years. How are you going to spend that? You know, how are you going to spend it? And at the end of the day, is it an oh no or is it a yes? You know? And we're all have an end of the day.
Right.
You know, so we have to be really real about it. You know, if you live a purposeful life, you die with a wonderful, magnanimous yes. You know, yes, it had beauty, it had meaning, it had purpose. Yes, you know, when you stand before God, you're not a ragged beggar. You know, holding your head down. You can stand with dignity. You know, there was sanctity in my life. There was meaning in my life. So that idea of glamour has to be part of our personal rumination so that we can keep on mark, keep on course. So that's one major factor in looking at life. And then there's, and this is sort of like an evil that we have to become aware of. The notion of exploitation. This is super important from a yogic point of view. A lot of times we get caught up in understandings like, okay, fouling the oceans is bad, harming the women are bad, you know the political, you know, evil machinations that are going on are bad. It's a splintering of life's sorrows into 10,000 things. Are they all bad? Yeah, they're all bad. But if you look and say, what is the root of those evils? All the root, we're going to follow it back. All of those evils that you can say exist in the world come from the idea of exploitation. Whether you're exploiting the ocean, or you're exploiting the women, or you're exploiting the children, or you're exploiting the health system, or you're exploiting the, you know, the criminal system. It's all a form of, or political, it's all exploitation. Every bit of it. All those sorrows come from exploitation. And the notion of exploitation comes from, the root of it is ignorance. You can take the word ego and the word ignorance and put them together. And if you have ego and you have ignorance, you're going to have exploitation. See? You're going to have the misuse of energy. See? You're going to have, I want the energy to be used more for me than for you. And the moment you put me before you and create a tiered system, you have exploitation. It's more important for my nation to get the resources than your nation to get the resources. It's more important for my family to get the health care than your family to get the health care. See? That's based on ignorance. Again, why do we sit in prayer? Why do we sit in meditation? In those conditions, we can acquire deep insight. And in those insights, we discover that we're all in it together. We're all part of the same breath of God. See? We all are part of the same life of God living here, manifesting here. That we're not really separate. If we open our eyes, we think, oh, this person's this way, this person's that way. If we close our eyes and open our hearts, or experience our hearts, we're all in it together. So your success becomes my success. Your joy is my joy. And my whole thing is to cultivate more joy, more completion, more love. If that becomes my purpose, that becomes what's precious to me. If that becomes what's truly precious to me, how can I contain it just here? Don't I want to cultivate it there? Please. So find the precious and cultivate the precious. See? If you're not cultivating the precious, there's going to be me and you. There's going to be one's here, one's here. And the moment you see someone as truly, truly other, one way or the other, exploitation will quietly seep in. I'm a little more important than you. I'm a little bit better than you. I'm a little bit prettier than you. See? As opposed to saying and looking at each other and saying, God exists in my heart. God exists in your heart. Love exists in my heart. Love exists in your heart. Yes. See, isn't that a great equalizer when you realize that love exists in everybody's heart and that's what you're focused on? See, as opposed to, you're this color and I'm that color. See, you're this body shape and I'm that body shape. You know? See, my family comes from this pedigree and your family comes from that condition. See? Exploitation. The moment we're not looking at the precious, whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's going to be some form of exploitation. This is getting real. This is the hard edges of yoga that you have to really look at so that you don't get caught in the traps. If you don't know the traps are out there, it's just a matter of time before you step in it. See? So by acquiring a true vision, deep vision, equal vision, then exploitation goes down, goes down, goes down, goes down. And then as you have this deeper vision, you want to support life. You want to support existence wherever it manifests. See? You know, you become a cheerleader for life, you know, as opposed to, I want to hoard this, I want to protect this for myself. And in protecting this and in hoarding this, you're definitely putting somebody down. You know, you've built a wall for a reason. You're keeping someone out or something out, as opposed to giving everybody something positive, something nutritive. The yogi wants everybody to grow. Yogi wants success for all, joy for all, completion for all. That becomes our life work. That becomes our mission. That becomes what we even dream about. It's even in our dreams. See? You know, what's precious within becomes what we cultivate as what's precious without. See? So you have to do these examinations and to know the various forces that oppose this. Glamour opposes true self-knowledge. Exploitation opposes true self-knowledge. See? So you sort of got to name the beast so you don't get bit. You know, if you don't know it's out there, you're going to become subject to it unconsciously. You know, am I participating in glamour? Am I participating in exploitation? See? This is a little painful, you know, but it's good to know. So if you picked up some of those barnacles, you can knock them off your boat. Say, I don't want to participate in that. See, this sort of accrued on the belly of my boat without me really being aware of it. But now that I'm aware of it, I can get under there and knock them off. See? And now that I'm aware that life is precious, there's precious within and precious without, that becomes the business of my life. See, the business of your life becomes what's precious, as opposed to the 10,000 glamours, all of which are hooks, all of which are illusions, all of which are insubstantial that I've been investing in. See? So again, the yogi has a tremendous sense of economy as to what we put our energy into. See? What we invest our life in. We know heaven has given us roughly 100 years. What am I going to do with it? What is my investment going to be? You know, how much of that 100 years of existence, of being caught up in this coat, this clay pot, will be reflective of the kingdom, or reflective of the maladies of ignorance? He has 2 dogs in the back. So.
At first I was like, what is that?
It's a dog. It's a dog.
There's 2 of them. Yeah. So they probably hear something that's catching their attention. So this talk today is a little bit difficult, because it's sort of the hard realities of if you want high experience, high internal experience, you sort of have to understand the ways to approach it and the natural oppositions that are there. There are natural oppositions, see? And by knowing these natural oppositions, you can work your way from not being hooked, not being captured. So much of our life we're unconsciously captured in circumstances. So there's very little truth, very little reality. We're living in our own dynamic dream, and we're being tossed about by forces that are unknown, unnamed, unidentified. But once you can identify them, the ball changes. You don't have to be subject to them. Once you realize these energies are out there, you can ameliorate them. See, you can neutralize them. But if you don't know you're affected by them, you can't take action. See? So this yoga process is not just our prayers. All these things, prayer, mantra, meditation, is our inner way. But we also have to understand the ground we stand on, the forces that exist, and the way of maintaining a type of attunement and seeing. Can you imagine any saint? Look at the life of any saint, anyone, or avatar. Didn't every one of them have oppositions? You can't look at any saint, any master, any avatar that didn't have opposition. Weren't there forces opposing Jesus? Forces opposing Buddha? See? Any saint. You can't find one of them that didn't have oppositional forces. And then you look at that saint and say, what was precious to that saint? And then what was their life action? See? They had something precious within, they had something precious without, and they were fulfilling that. But they all had oppositional forces. And even you have primary oppositional forces and secondary forces. See? So with Jesus you had certain political implications that were going against him, and certain in the religious aristocracy that weren't particularly happy. So those are like primary forces. But didn't the community also not rise up and say, this is wrong? You can't crucify this great soul? That's a secondary. See? There was no marching of the people saying this is wrong. So these are oppositional forces. They were caught up in glamour. They were caught up in a form of exploitation. See? It wasn't for the welfare of all, for the good of all. But that Master Jesus knew what was precious, and come what may, spoke it and lived it out. See? Now, all these years later, don't we praise his name? Because he saw what was precious, held on to what was precious, lived out what was precious. See? Thousands of years later, we still read his work, or the life of Buddha, or the work of Sri Krishna, or all the many, 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 many masters. We still remember them because they saw what was precious, they maintained what was precious, they spoke about what was precious, their life was precious. Were there the oppositional forces? Absolutely. Was Maya there? Was glamour there? Was exploitation there? Find a saint that there was not some form of exploitation going on actively around him. You can't. See, so we have to realize, that's why I so encourage reading the lives of saints and analyzing. So if you think it's a cakewalk to heaven, think again. It's a divine struggle. See? It's purging us of all the vestiges of glamour, all the vestiges of exploitation. See, and having a single divine, precious purpose. See, a little bit tough discussion. Every now and then we have to take out the Brillo pad and scrub hard, but necessary. Any thoughts about any of this, the ideas that I'm bringing out? Raj, any thoughts, my friend?
Oh, I do, but
So there's a certain amount of deep diving and radical, ruthless honesty that we have to have in this business. It's not just, oh, kumbaya, we're all wonderful. No. Come on, get real. You have good stuff, you have not so good stuff. The deal is to let go of the not so good stuff, magnify the good stuff. That becomes your life. Magnify the good stuff. The other stuff, you don't have to fight with anything. Just leave it alone. You don't have to suppress anything. You don't have to scrum anything. Just leave it alone. Just non-support. If you have a weakness, just simply don't support it. Find something on the other side that's very positive, support that. What you don't support will normally, naturally fall away. It will fall away through disuse. We haven't given it any energy, so it'll fall away. Just know what's precious constantly. That becomes your engine. That becomes the pace of your heart all the time. What's precious. That becomes the whole canvas of your life. But you invested in it. It was real. See? It wasn't put upon you. See? You didn't just sort of pick it up because mother said it, friends said it, teacher said it, so-so said it, adversary said it. Those are nonsense. Don't accept any of it. It's all rubbish. Don't accept any of it. Look deep into your heart. Find what's precious. That's your face. That's your face. Look deep into your heart and find what's precious. That's your face. Don't accept any other face or any other voice. See? Don't accept it. Just say, thank you for your opinion. See you later. That's all. It's just an unsubstantiated opinion. Find your own sacred face. Work that, work that, work that, work that, work that. That becomes your mission. That becomes your direction. That becomes your purpose. You're finding a type of a sacred integrity. You're finding what's real, essential to yourself. See, your own voice is what you're finding. Your own voice, not other people's voices. Your voice. See, what people don't understand is heaven puts a song in each person that you have to sing. It's in you. You have to discover it. That's why they say, know thyself. You all have a sacred song. And until you find that song, and until you sing it, live it out, that your life becomes that song, you're really lost. Why are so many people dying and they're not happy? They never found their own true face. They never sang their own song. They're dying unhappy, unsatisfied. That's how they're passing away. See? So by finding that true face, that true song, and then fulfilling it, then you die with that big, big, joyous yes. You know? You fulfilled. It was a complete song that you sang. So this is the hard work of yoga is to get you to sing that song, to find that face. See, and the teachers are here to lovingly press you into that search. You know, because we can see down the road the barrels of sorrow that you're going to be stumbling across. You know, it's not pretty. You know, and it's not necessary. You know, you can build joy, you can build happiness, you can build success. You can't control the weather, but you can control the mission. See? You can fulfill the mission. See? And then the life that you live, you'll have left gardens behind, as opposed to wreckage behind. How much emotional wreckage are friends that we all know and family that we all know are leaving in their wake, as opposed to fulfilling your life with garden after garden after garden. Wherever that person planted their foot, a garden sprouted. Isn't that more our destiny in whatever field? You know, even in your legal field, you know, you could have meaning. You can make a statement that has real meaning, whether people like it or not. It'll have meaning, it'll have purpose, and it can guide the hearts of others. It can lead others to find what's essential in their own heart. See, so their action will be guided by something precious, as opposed to glamour or exploitation. See? So we get to choose what we participate in. But you have to fight for your own sovereignty, see, as to what you're going to participate in. Otherwise, we'll just quietly get caught up in it. You know, no one means to be bad. Nobody means that. But we quietly get shifted into this and shifted into that. And, yeah, it's okay. See? Consequently, rebirth, until we can work it out and get it right. See? So as long as you're here, as long as you're in the body, fight. Fight for your sovereignty. Fight for your true self. Fight for real yoga. Yoga comes from the root word, the Sanskrit word yog. Yog means to bind or to join together. What are you joining together? You're joining the finite to the infinite. The uninformed to the fully informed. The ignorant to the wisdom. See? The unknowing to the truth. See? You're binding them together. So the unknowing becomes known. See? The incomplete becomes complete. See? You know, why is all the boys seeking girls and girls seeking boys, and we're seeking all these different experiences? Because you're seeking completion. We're seeking completion in 10,000 different ways. See? Of which none of them have really worked out. So, if you want real completion, doesn't mean you can't have a companion with you. You certainly can. Boys and girls, no problem. But if you want completion, become quiet. Follow the way of the saints. Say the prayers, do the mantras. Concentrate the mind. Find simplicity. Concentrate deeply. Hold the silence. And allow revelation to occur. Allow revelation to occur. That's how we all rise up, through revelation. See? The truth is revealed by creating the right conditions. We create these conditions, and then natural phenomena occurs. See? So this is the path that I'm inviting you all on. You know, this is the journey. So if we're climbing Mount Everest, is every day a kumbaya day? Or some days you're really struggling. The stones are tough, the air is thin, the weather's not great. And then are there other days that are glorious, where there's great vistas and great peace and great joy? Absolutely. But understand, both are there. See, it's not a kumbaya journey. It's a journey. It's a journey. See? So the yogis, we all invite you on this journey. You know, don't expect, a flower carpet. Expect life. Simply expect life. And then expect to hold on to what's sacred in life. And that becomes your inner journey. See? We thread our way through this world of all the different karmas that are manifesting, but we thread this way, this sacred path through. See, holding on to that thread of the sacred. And eventually we come to know the kingdom. See? And on the way you'll meet bandit and saint. See? But you'll associate with the saint, you'll bless the bandit. And continue. That's it. You don't get hung up. So that's what you're here for. That's what you've been invited to engage in. Everybody in this room has come here based on a prayer. You have to pray to get into this situation. And you have sovereignty. It's up to you whether you choose the journey and the pace you choose to take and the level of force you choose to apply. This is all your decision. See? What your level of investment in the sacred is. Again, it's your choice. The teacher's job is to give you the opportunity. Your job is to take the opportunity. The teacher's job is to answer 10,000 questions. Your job is to ask 10,000 questions. See? That's the relationship. See? And then if you do those things, our desire is for you to see for yourself. I'm not interested in you just saying, oh, this is what Hari said, that must be so. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in giving you the proper formulas and understandings so that you can see for yourself. Because that absolute personal validation is at the heart of yoga. Is your own personal revelation. See? Getting you in the situation, using the correct methodology for you to know for sure for yourself. See? That you go beyond theory to direct knowing. See? That is our real desire. See, then 10,000 people can say no, but if you know the answer is yes, you say yes, regardless of the voice of 10,000. See? We want you to know. Is there a God? What does that mean? Is there a purpose? Is there a reason to help everybody? There are reasons. Is it blessed? There is a blessed reason. Can you participate in that blessed activity? Yes, you can. So you can choose the life of a common human being, or you can choose the life of a divine seeker. See? And if you choose that life, there are very definite tools that you must master. And I say master, I'm not joking. You can't play around. It's a science. You master certain techniques. You master certain understandings. You apply it rigorously, come what may. And you become accomplished. See? Will you all become accomplished at some time? Absolutely. It's just a question of time. Question of your choice to make that application. Your choice to make that sacrifice. See? Was the life of Buddha a sacrifice? Absolutely. The life of Krishna a sacrifice? Yeah, absolutely. Jesus sacrifice? Absolutely. They're all forming a yajna, a type of sacrifice for the blessedness. See? For the blessedness. To manifest the blessedness in form so that all can see. So that's our destiny. It's a question of you making that application to fulfill it. So you all have that opportunity. You all have friends. You all now know Hari. Like Victor over here. Did you go see Sri M? Did you see him? Sri M, that master? No. He was.
I don't know names too well.
Yeah, no, yeah, he was here a few months ago. But even Victor, even though maybe we've known each other a year or two now, you know, he met Ramamata, and he met the Buddhist master, Kento Rinpoche. You know, in the space of a year or two, he's met two great saints. Two great saints. You know, now how did that happen? He's hanging out with Hari. Not because Hari is some big thing, but Hari has chosen that he keeps company with such souls. So by association, Victor gets to meet such great souls. See? That's how it's always been. See, you're brought into a community. Now Bun is here. So, you know, maintain that friendship, that association. Definitely, she's going to meet saints. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. It's definite. And will the blessings of those saints go to her and her family? Definitely. That's how it works. You know, you come into a community. See? You all know about the community of man. You don't know that much about the community of saints. The yogi, real yogis, their job is to help introduce you to that higher community. That's part of their responsibility. You know, as you become ready to introduce you to that community, so that you can benefit from that community, then serve that community, and then eventually become part of that community. See the relationship, how you go. First you have to be introduced, then you serve them, and then you become part of it. That's how it works. That's really how it works. See? So it's all bit by bit, but all very, 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 very possible. Can you think of it just as individuals? How many of your friends have met saints? Don't you realize what a minority you are? That you've actually met saints? You know? And then later on to have real intimacy with the saints? To have that opportunity? Can you understand out of the human population what a minority you are? And that you're part of this sacred minority based on your past prayers, your past actions? Can you understand your level of how fortunate you are? See? And that's why I say show up, not as a, putting you down or anything like that, but it means you've done all these actions, all these prayers, capitalize on the opportunity, capitalize on the opportunity. Don't let that opportunity slip away. It'll go back into the dust again if you don't act on it. See, you create your future. You create your karma. See? So anyway, these are the things I had to talk about. These are profoundly sophisticated. This idea of precious within, precious without, glamour and exploitation. These are big themes to think about. We get caught up in every little problem. No. The hidden problem is exploitation, and behind exploitation is ego. And what is ego? Ego is ignorance. Ego is the eye of ignorance. It's a seed that allows all these other permutations to occur. So follow it back. See, know the real problem, and then address that. That ignorance is based on lack of self-knowing. So know thyself. How have the saints said to know thyself? Well, become quiet. Look within. Hold the stillness. Be aware. Allow revelation to occur. That's how you're going to know. That's how you're going to know. See? Then no one can say anything different. You know. See? So that's the thing. Too serious?
Can you talk a little more? I understand how important it is to associate with saints, but sometimes we have to associate with bandits that are particularly toxic and recurring.
Of course.
And can you just talk a little bit more about doing so with that precious?
Sure. I've been with bandits all my life. I've also been with saints all my life. You see? But the thing is, this is where self-knowing, you have to understand your mission. I haven't become a bandit because I knew that wasn't part of my existence. That's not the energy of my life. Though you can't be a physician and not associate with the sick. You have to associate with the sick, if you're a physician. So if the cultivation of true insight and sanctity is developing in your heart, part of that mission is to help those who are in a more unfortunate situation. From the most groveling bandit to all the permutations of that. But you have to know yourself. You have to have your own mooring. We don't judge anybody. We've all been saints, we've all been bandits. We've all been really good and really bad. So we just have to put that on the table. They have a saying that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. See? So we just have to understand. We all haven't been gems along the way. We've done our share of mischief. But that's not who we are. That may be what we have done. But we've created mischief out of lack of self-knowledge. So you as a participant in the legal system, you just want to inject self-knowledge. A person who's identified as a bandit doing really bad things, it's ignorance. It's based on ignorance, not a sense of appreciating what's precious in them. So they couldn't find anything precious in the world. So everything in the world becomes a tool of exploitation. See? So you have to know what you're about. And then you sort of become Teflon in a way, where the rubbish of the world doesn't stick to you. That you have a mission that you just take care of. You just take care of your business, even though you might be involved in the mud of life, difficulty of life. But you don't take any offense. You don't make any judgment. You just want to enrich the soil. So you come to a desert and you want to make a garden. That's it. That's how we live. Today someone broke into my van. It's the 4th time. What are you going to do? So, look, I can get mad and curse the guy, or I quietly go in my room. And I say prayers for that fellow, and I say prayers for his family, because based on ignorance and some desperation, he breaks into my vehicle to steal whatever he can to sell. Is he bad? Probably not. Is he ignorant? Definitely. Is his view of life obscured? Yes. He needs more my prayers than my condemning him. See? So I pray for his heart to open, for prosperity to come to him, prosperity to come to his family, so that there's no need. Because by doing those actions, there's a blindness, there's a desperateness. So I pray that that blindness be removed, that desperateness be removed, and that prosperity come. Then his heart will be happy, my heart's happy. We call it a day. That's how we live, as opposed to railing. That's active ignorance, active desperation, So how much can I get down on the fellow? See? We all have to live with that. We have to live with that. But they have another saying that's quite lovely. Even if you crush a saint, the saint will offer you its fragrance. See? Because that's what was in the saint. See, so by you understanding what's truly precious about yourself, what's truly precious, whether good things or bad things happen, the fragrance of what's precious in you is what's going to come out. See? So it's your deep spiritual integrity that you have to discover and you have to exercise, come what may. See? Come what may. That's how you will live your life, that's how I'll live our life. And then that's how our life is meaningful. Meaningful. We leave gardens behind us, not rubble. Any other thoughts, ideas? Nothing today?
Well, I'm curious. I'd like if you would say the names of these saints that you say people have been to before, so I can look them up and find out more about them.
Sure.
One was Sri M.
Oh yeah, he's a contemporary saint.
Is that like M, just the letter M?
Yeah. If you
Okay.
Google him or look on YouTube, these beautiful talks.
Thanks. There's a couple more?
Oh, there's many. You
Well-
can look at, if you're looking at contemporary saints or within the last 100 years, you can Papa Ramdas of Kerala.
Baba Ramdas?
Papa.
Oh, that's a different one, huh? Papa Ramdas.
Yeah, Papa Ramdas of Kerala. You can look at Sri Ramakrishna. You can look at.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Look,
of
he's big. Vivekananda, his great disciple.
Vivekananda.
Vivekananda.
I know.
His great disciple.
Or the ones that are alive, like the ones that Victor saw that you were mentioning.
One just passed away.
Oh,
Another one, she'll be coming here in a
Oh.
few months.
what is her name?
Ramamata. That's my guru's spouse.
Oh,
She'll be
That's
coming in a few months.
is she going to come and give a talk at your house?
Yeah, she'll be here.
At the usual Sunday of the month? Or
Oh,
special?
we're working that out
Oh,
right now.
you'll send an email, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
an email will go on to
interesting.
that. Yeah. Okay. And there's a book called "Learning True Love." Behind Martin, there's a book up there. Actually, directly behind your head, I think, in that pile to the right. Yeah, in that big pile there's a book called "Learning True Love," and that's by a woman, Buddhist saint. I don't recall her name right now, but she was during the Vietnam War.
And that's Hans just said.
Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh's disciple.
Yeah.
It's really worth reading.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
Learning True Love?
it's called "Learning True
Oh,
Love."
I almost remember her name. I think I have that book at my. I think my
Yeah, she's a-
partner read that book.
Yeah,
I'm not
she's
sure
a
that I did.
Zen practitioner.
Okay.
Very, very important.
Uh-huh.
Or even like the American mystic Peace Pilgrim.
Oh yeah.
You
I
know,
like her.
in the 30s, 40s, and 50s,
Yeah,
she
she's
walked every contiguous state, not ever asking for a ride unless it was offered, not ever asking for food unless it was offered. And she walked through the entire nation, every state of the Union, contiguous state of the Union, as a woman by herself in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? The strength, the courage, the faith, and giving a gospel of peace. This is a hero. This is a great soul. This is a true mystic.
She was associated with the Quakers, wasn't she? In some way or another?
Well, the gospel that
Understood
she's
the
teaching
Quakers.
is very, very similar. But she's a genuine American mystic. So there's many like that. There's many. Right, Rob, you're going off?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you
coming.
so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
3M is right now walking through India from the southern tip to all the north to what's the name of the part? Ladakh. And some friends of us who are sometimes here too are walking with him.
Yeah.
So they walked for 1 month and they started in
Christian
Puri,
and Matthew.
and
Christian.
they walked up to Bangalore, and it's called Walk of Hope. So you can also Google that and you can
Walk
see
of
where
Hope.
they are.
Yeah, he's
where
a
they're
contemporary
walking
mystic.
right now. So they plan to walk like 1 year and
Yeah.
across the whole
Ram
continent.
Krishna. Thank you for coming.
Wow.
If I would have time, I think I would like to go there and to walk with them. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like walking in Spain, and that's a good idea.
You like
to try
walking?
Yeah.
and meet them and walk in like little Indian towns. I think that must be a very amazing experience.
Yeah. So that's happening right now. And you have the hugging saint that goes to San Leandro. So these people are here, and you can read their biographies. Some are immediate current, some have passed away, but their literature is here. So you have to read these things so that you can have a realistic understanding of what this life is about, and the ups and downs of it, and the inner mission, the living sanctity of it. So you inform yourself. You form yourself and you make the journey. So we're going to close now, unless there are any closing questions. So you can sit up. We'll chant Om 3 more times, and then I know that this food has been prepared for you. Again, the spine is erect. And then take a deep breath in. And then a few moments of silence. And gently take a breath in. Release the breath. And then gently open your eyes. So I thank you one and all for coming. Raj, could you manage the camera?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And anyway, today was a little bit more difficult, sort of more a little bit hard hitting, but necessary to break the illusions, to know what our investments are. Did I answer your questions?
I think what I think I would not have so much difficulty with someone breaking in, someone individually, like a client or someone breaking into my van, but my sister or somebody who is very close and invested in a part of the identity
Yeah.
that maybe I'm trying to break from.
Yeah. We all have family members that are askew, that they're problems. We're not born into heaven, we're born into the earth.
It just feels particularly vulnerable and scary and more difficult to have that strength of love and to foster the preciousness in the face of something like that that's so close.
In a lot of the iconology, you'll see the various, whether it's Hindu or Buddhist, there's often the deity will be holding a sword or a sickle. It means there's a battle. It means there's a fight. It means sometimes things have to be slain. So we have to have a tremendous integrity and know what we're about and just hold to it. And that's why I always have that saying, come what may. See? And that, we choose to treat a person in a certain way regardless of their behavior. Because it's not about them, it's about our integrity and us reinforcing what we are about. They may be in a state of
Thank you,
Ramakrishna.
Haricharan.
Ramakrishna. They may be in a state of malady. We shouldn't see them as evil or bad. We should see them as sick. And that sickness is based on ignorance. See? So that way our heart is a little softened. Where they may be like really problems. And we all know that from our families and friends' families. We all know how difficult things can be. But we just have to say, we recognize the illness and know what we will do and know what we will not participate in. And then that's it. The hand has two sides, a soft side and a hard side. It's one hand. We have to use both. Sometimes we have to be very difficult, it's very direct and strict. But there's also a compassionate, soft, loving side too.
How is that not exploitative to be strict and difficult? Or how do we
Because
avoid that?
you're looking at, it's based on your motivation. What is your motive? Is your motive healing? Or your motive based on some ignorance or something like that, some retribution or some anger? See? So motivation is immensely important. See? That's it. You know? Strict is not bad. You have to be strict with your child. Don't go play in the street. Is that bad? What's your motivation? Your motivation is to preserve the life and integrity of the child. See? So a person who is acting out in an unhealthy way, sometimes strictness has to be there. But it's the strictness of a physician. See, it's the strictness of a physician who's looking for the integrity and health of the client. So that's how we have to understand and how we have to live. Sometimes we have to be very tough, but it's for the healing of the client. Because right now they don't know better. They don't know better and they're not doing any better. And there's a medicine that will lead to their healing. Sometimes the medicine is bitter, but it leads to the healing. See? So we have to be like a good physician. Sometimes the medicine is sweet, sometimes the medicine is bitter, but it's medicine. So if we truly care about the healing of the client, of the patient, we give the medicine. That's it. And it's based on our motivation. Our motivation is to heal. So we do what's necessary. You know, like the Dharma teacher, sometimes we talk lovingly, sweetly, sometimes very direct, very sharp. It's based on what the person needed. You know, if you're like on a very high, well-developed horse, just a little flick of your wrist and the horse will know what to do. If you're riding a buffalo, you've got to whack it because its hide is so thick that the only thing that'll get through to it is the whack. You do what's appropriate. You know, your motivation is not to harm, but to give correct insight, knowledge, growth, opportunity. See? So you want to heal, and you give whatever medicine is necessary. See, with a simple heart, you know. So that's how it is. That's how we all have family members are this way or that way, or friends are this way or that way. We all have that. You know, some friends that went on a southern path, some friends that common path, some friends went north. We all have that, and same thing in our families. You know, families are just big cauldrons, you know, karmic cauldrons. You know. But you have to first discover yourself, and then in discovering yourself, you can discover your strength and your methodology, how you approach life circumstances, whether pleasant or difficult. See, that's how it is.
Thank you.
Sure.